Quiz time. You're a beginning tarot reader and you need to pick a deck. Which tarot deck do you choose? We're talking about picking your first tarot deck or picking a tarot deck. Do you choose A, B, or C? Take a look. Make your decision. And I'll be back with my answer. Hi there. Thanks for stopping by. While you're here, let me pull a card for you. Subscribe if you'd like to learn to read your life like a psychic.
Is that your final answer? Our survey says...
All these decks are based on the Rider-Waite, and they have images on the pip cards or the numbered cards, as we can see here. So they all pass the test of one, they're based on the Rider-Waite, and two, they have pictures on the numbered cards. Now, why do I say 1 and 2? Because the most conversation is around the Rider-Waite Smith or the Rider-Waite deck. It's not the oldest deck. It's not the best deck. It's not, it's not a lot of things. But it was part of the revival of tarot, and it's like the most conversation is around that deck. So it makes sense for you to start someplace where there's the most conversation, and then you can move out or back or under, or however you want to see it, to something else. So A, B, and C both passed 1 and 2 based on the Rider-Waite and have pictures on the numbered cards. Okay, another criteria for picking a tarot deck is make sure that it has the 4 court card suits, which is King, Queen, Knight, and Page. Some tarot decks will actually drop one of the court cards, like they won't have pages. They just decided they don't need them or whatever, and that's fine. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm just saying when you're starting out, start with the full 78 tarot cards that we are most used to seeing, which corresponds with the Rider-Waite. Okay, and I'm not going to get any arguments about stuff that's older or where it came from or stuff like that. I'm just giving you my advice for the best way to get started reading tarot. So make sure it has the four court cards, which are King, Queen, Knight, and Page. Now I only laid out 4 for each deck, so you can't see it, but you can see here we have Elder of Water, we have Queen of Cups, and we have King of Rods. I will tell you that in all these decks, they do have all 4 court cards. I'll give you that much. My only caution around that, okay, once you've got to, okay, it has 4 cards, court cards, King, Queen, Knight, and Page, is, are they called King, Queen, Knight, and Page? Because that's another thing you'll find in tarot decks is they like to change the names. They change, the page to a princess or to daughters is they have different names. And so that can be confusing too. Because like I said, you're trying to enter in a conversation where the most conversation is happening. And if they're using different terminology, it might confuse you. So this is the Gaian deck, which I love. I mean, it is like hands down my favorite deck. But she does change the names and the gender of the court cards. So this is Elder of Water. So this is the king, and queens are guardians. And in this case, it is a male, but sometimes they do switch gender. Like a elder would be a woman in some of the cards on the Gaian, so she doesn't stick necessarily. So that's a little consideration. It's like, but if you really love the deck, I wouldn't let that keep you from getting it. And then lastly, we have, does it have the 22 major arcana cards that we're used to, Fool Through the World, and I will tell you that each of these do. This is a New Palladini, yes. This is Tarot Illuminati, yes. This is Gaian Tarot, yes. And does it use the standard names? So once again, it's kind of like with the court card names, like do they switch them out? The New Palladini, no, it does not. The Yes, and the Illuminati, no, it does not. And the Gaian, she does switch. So like this is 20, which would be normally be called Judgment. She calls it Awakening. So once again, it's a consideration. I think if you really love the deck and you really are into the imagery, and it does kind of change the names of a few of the cards. Like a lot of times you'll find the devil card changed because people don't like things being called the devil. You know, that's fine. You're just going to have to remember that your deck is different. It's just if there's too much of that kind of stuff, you're going to get confused. And the idea is not to be confused in the beginning. You want to get your foundation down, and then, like I said, you can expand out or move into other things. So it's just like with, when we teach kids in school, we teach them very methodically how to read. We teach them very methodically how to do math. We don't just start throwing algebraic equations at kids when they're in elementary school, although there will be some precursors to algebra that start showing up. But you don't just throw it at them because they would be confused. So that's the same idea here. So one other thing I wanted to point out is it's good to have really clear images. Like this new Palladini is a really good example of, these are very clear images. You can see everything very well. There's not a whole lot going on in each card. There's not a lot of distraction. There's just the images and, not a whole lot more. Like this Tarot Illuminati, though I do like this deck very much, there's a lot going on in here. Like sometimes it's even too much for me. Like it's like if I'm not in the right mood, I can't read it because it's just, there's too much. I mean, it has such detail. I mean, detail, and the detail goes everywhere in the card. And so that can be a hindrance as well when you're starting. So look for something that's more clear like this, almost like cartoon panels, where it's just, boom, there it is. This is what's happening. It's really easy to see. This is what's in the card. There's not a whole lot else going on. So to sum up, like I said, this would be my pick for beginners, this new Palladini. Second would be the Gaian, even though it kind of does a little switcheroo on the court cards and the major arcana. I think if you really love it, you could get past it. And then I would pass on the Illuminati Tarot Tarot Illuminati just because of there's so much going on in the cards. I think it's just a little overwhelming for beginners, but that's my opinion. So I've outlined it, and put in the comments what your first tarot deck was, or if you have any questions about particular decks or what you should pick for your first tarot deck.